All right, today we are diving into one of the wildest, most intense visions in ancient literature. We're talking about the prophetic nightmare from Daniel, chapter 7. This thing is packed with monstrous beasts, heavenly thrones, a huge clash between earthly chaos and divine order. So, yeah, let's jump right in.
And you've got to understand, this vision is meant to be unsettling. It's not just some intellectual puzzle. The source material is really clear on this. You're supposed to feel a sense of terror, of awe in the face of this raw, untamed power. Okay, so how are we going to tackle this? We've broken it down into 5 parts. First, we'll look at the nightmare itself. Then, we'll decode those 4 beasts and see how they link up with 4 ancient empires. We'll spend some extra time on that final, terrifying beast. After that, we'll witness a dramatic trial in a heavenly court. And finally, we'll see the rise of a kingdom that's meant to last forever.
So picture this. The year is around 553 BC. Daniel has this vision. He sees the 4 winds of heaven just churning up what's called the Great Sea. Now, in ancient Hebrew thought, the sea was this huge symbol of chaos, right? Of danger, the restless mess of human nations. So right from the jump, we're being shown a world in total violent upheaval.
And then, out of this swirling chaos, come these 4 just bizarre and terrifying creatures. First, you've got a lion, but with eagle's wings. Then a bear, kind of lopsided, with 3 ribs sticking out of its mouth. After that, a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads. And finally, this dreadful, unnamed beast with iron teeth and 10 horns. This right here, this is the mystery we're here to solve.
Now, luckily for Daniel and for us, he doesn't have to guess what this all means. An angel actually shows up in the vision and explains that these 4 beasts are 4 kingdoms that are going to rise up. And what's really fascinating is how our source material connects these symbols to a very specific lineup of historical empires.
Okay, beast number 1, the lion with eagle's wings. This gets identified as the Babylonian Empire. And that symbolism, it's just so powerful. The lion, represents strength and dominion, but the eagle's wings? That's all about the incredible speed with which Babylon just conquered everyone around them, including swooping down and carrying the nation of Judah off into captivity.
Next up, we have the bear. The source text pegs this one as the Medo-Persian Empire, which took over from Babylon, and the little details here are brilliant. The fact that it's raised on one side perfectly captures the politics of that alliance. The Persians, led by Cyrus the Great, were definitely the dominant partner over the Medes. And those 3 ribs in its mouth, those are thought to be 3 of its biggest conquests: Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt.
The third beast is a leopard, which is already a fast animal, right? But this one has 4 wings. That's just insane speed. And it's a perfect match for the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. I mean, his armies conquered the known world with just breathtaking speed. And then, when he died, his empire was split up among 4 of his generals. You guessed it, symbolized by the leopard's 4 heads.
And that brings us to the 4th and final beast. Now, this one is different. It's not even given an animal name. It's just described as terrifying, dreadful, and unbelievably powerful. It's so unique, so complex, that it really needs its own section for us to dig into what it represents. I mean, this creature just stands completely apart from the others, doesn't it? It gets way more description and it inspires way more fear in Daniel. The text is intentionally building the suspense here. Who or what is this thing?
So its defining features are just immense power and total ruthlessness. It has iron teeth that devour and crush everything in its path. And this is interpreted as the Roman Empire, which, it literally conquered and absorbed the territories of the previous 3 empires: Babylon, Persia, and Greece, with a military might the world had never seen. And those 10 horns, well, that adds a whole new layer to the prophecy.
So the angel explains that the 10 horns are 10 kings, one after the other. Our source lines these up with the first 10 emperors of Rome, starting with Augustus and going all the way through Titus. It provides a really clear historical map. But wait, the story isn't over yet. Because then another horn shows up, a little horn. It grows up among the others, and in the process, it uproots 3 of them. But this horn is different. It has the eyes of a man and a mouth that's just speaking these arrogant, boastful things. This detail is a huge clue that we're not just talking about an empire anymore. We're looking at a specific, arrogant human ruler.
Okay, so who is this little horn? The source identifies him as the 11th emperor, Domitian. So what about the three horns that get uprooted before him? Well, those are identified as Galba, Otho, and Vitellius, three emperors who ruled for a super short time during a really chaotic year of civil war. And Domitian was right there in Rome to see them all fall, right before his own family, his father, Vespasian, took power. It's a pretty stunning match for the vision's detail.
So just when the vision of this terrifying beast and its arrogant little horn is at its most intense, the entire scene just shifts, dramatically. We are yanked away from the chaos of human empires on Earth and suddenly transported to a scene of ultimate cosmic authority. Just like that, the scene changes. What Daniel sees next is nothing short of a heavenly courtroom. Thrones are set in place, and this majestic figure, called the Ancient of Days, takes his seat as the ultimate judge. Then, books are opened, which suggests, a perfect record of history is about to be reviewed. The message here is crystal clear. The chaos down on Earth is not out of control.
And then the verdict comes down. Because of the arrogant boasting of that little horn, the entire fourth beast, the whole Roman Empire, is judged, condemned, and symbolically thrown into a blazing fire to be destroyed. You can't miss the message here. Even the most powerful human empire on the planet is ultimately accountable to a higher power. Okay, so at that judgment passed, the vision hits its absolute climax. And it's not just about tearing down old broken kingdoms. It's about establishing a brand new one. And a totally different kind of figure, a new kind of kingdom, now enters the scene.
And this is where we see the central contrast of the whole vision. See, unlike the beasts that crawled up out of the chaotic sea, this new figure, called the Son of Man, comes down from the heavens. He's not beastly, he's human. The source material explains that this figure represents humanity as it was always meant to be, made in the very image of God.
And then we get to witness this incredible heavenly coronation. This Son of Man figure approaches the Ancient of Days, and he is given authority and glory and power over a kingdom that will last forever. Now, the source interprets this moment as being fulfilled at the ascension of Christ, when he received his eternal kingdom that stands in such sharp contrast to the violent, temporary empires of the world. And this right here really lays out the whole theme of the vision in one go. On one side, you've got the kingdoms of men. They rise from chaos, they're beastly and violent, and they're all temporary. But on the other side, you have the kingdom of the Son of Man. It comes from heaven, it's defined by true humanity, it's given by God, and it is everlasting. So let's just quickly recap the whole journey we've been on. First, we saw how this ancient vision uses these incredible beastly symbols to map out a sequence of world empires: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and finally Rome. Second, we learned that no matter how powerful or chaotic these empires seem, they are all ultimately subject to God's divine judgment. And finally, the whole vision climaxes with the absolute triumph of an eternal heavenly kingdom over all these temporary earthly powers.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. How does a 2,500-year-old vision of monsters and thrones, how does that reframe the way we look at the rise and fall of modern empires, even the great powers in our own world today?